we stored energy in the chemical bonds, in the bonds in glucose. So today we are doing the opposite. We need to extract these molecules of energy out of the glucose molecule when we need them in a process called respiration. So in the respiration, we have, remember the story I told you about the cubes that when we push them with a spring here in the middle and then tie them, right?
Yeah.
We store energy. So what will happen when we cut this? They will move, right?
It
The
will.
energy will be released, right?
Yeah.
So in the respiration, we are doing the same thing, breaking down glucose to make ATP. Okay?
Okay.
Now, this is just a draft of what we are doing today. Remember with me, in the photosynthesis, we made the light-dependent reactions, followed by the Calvin cycle, right?
Yeah. What was the Calvin cycle?
The light-independent reaction. That's what I said in the beginning. We need to revise the previous session quickly because it has been a long time. Now, where is it? Here we go. Because we are doing exactly the opposite today. Look, the first page, yes. We will make this page again today, speaking about the cellular respiration. Remember with me, in the light-dependent reactions, it happened in the thylakoids of the chloroplast, where we absorbed light and we used water, and we got oxygen out of this water. Remember?
Yes.
The light energy was transferred to the ATP and the NADPH that carried energized electrons. Remember?
Yes.
Then the most important question in the previous session when we said light independent reactions cannot happen at night. Although the light independent reactions don't need light, but they require the energy of the ATP and the NADPH produced in the light dependent reactions. Remember?
Yes, I remember now.
So we will use the energy of the ATP and the NADPH to combine the carbon dioxide, taking this hydrogen, and combine carbon dioxide to make glucose. Okay?
Cool. Okay.
Now let's make the same design of this page for today's session. We will speak about the cellular respiration. Hang on a second. I'm in the middle. Yes. Here we go. In the aerobic cellular respiration. What is aerobic cellular respiration? It is a process of breaking down glucose to make ATP.
Energy.
Yes, the energy in the form of ATP. Remember who first made the glucose? The plant, right?
Yes. Oh, really?
It made it to itself or to just for us?
To itself?
To itself. It made like a box that stores energy. So whenever the plant needs energy later, the plant will get this box opened and release this energy. Okay.
Okay.
Right. How do we break this and why we say aerobic respiration? Remember the previous session, we said the plant takes carbon dioxide, takes water, and takes energy of light, right?
Yes.
To make glucose C6
Cool.
H12O6, and this process release oxygen, right?
Yeah.
This was the process using carbon dioxide and water in the process in the presence of energy to make glucose and oxygen. We will make exactly the opposite today. Look at this. I will just reverse the arrow. Look. Now, this is our process today. We and the plants, let's make it simple first. We eat food, right? Right? And we breathe
Yes.
oxygen, right?
Yes.
Then we break, remember the trick? The oxygen was released from the water in the photosynthesis. So we breathe oxygen, and by the help of the oxygen, we will break this glucose molecule. And what do we get? We get the energy from food, and we release in your exhaling. When you are exhaling, you're releasing carbon dioxide and water vapor, right?
Yeah.
So this is the cellular respiration, okay? Carried out
Okay.
by, this is the major point I was speaking about. Never forget that the plant made the food for itself, not for us. So who will use this food first? Carried
Oh,
out by plants and all other living things. I just write plants here to remind you that plants during the day carry out photosynthesis and respiration. And during the night, the plant carries out respiration alone. Okay?
I don't understand. Can you I don't understand what you say carried by. What carried by?
Carried out by who does the process of cellular respiration?
In plants.
Oh, breaking down glucose. Okay, and when we eat the plants, we get the glucose also, and we break it to get energy, right?
Ah, yes.
Get it? I'm just focusing on this
Yeah.
point. So now you believe that the plant carry out both cellular respiration and the photosynthesis, right?
Yes.
Plants, animals, fungi, protists, every living thing must break down food to get energy, right?
Yeah.
But photosynthesis is carried out only by, let's say, plants, because the device or the organelle used to make food, the chloroplast, is found only in plants. But today's session, the cellular respiration, it happens in the mitochondria. And you know the mitochondria is found in both animal cells and the plant cells, right?
Yeah.
So here we
So
go.
plants have two, um, chloroplast and mitochondria, or they have one each?
Yeah, both. Remember
Wow.
the second the second chapter when we were drawing the cell, we said lysosome is found in animal cell only, centrioles are found in animal cell only, and when we spoke about the plant cell, we said the chloroplast is found in plant cell only, and the cell wall is found in plant cells but not animal cells, right?
Yeah.
So, except for cell wall, chloroplast, lysosome, and centrioles, everything else is common between animals and the plants.
What is
So,
centriole? We didn't
you
centriole.
remember the cell division? meiosis and mitosis.
Oh,
The centrioles that produce the spindle fibers. See those?
we didn't take it in which place it takes,
No, no,
in the cell.
we took it in the look here, but we didn't focus on it. It's just a question that will face us in the future. Look, where is it? Here we go. See, those are the centrioles in animal cells. Centrioles in animal cells,
Oh,
they produce the spindle fiber. See? Okay. So, not to get
okay.
lost, I will write it for you. During the day, plants make photosynthesis and also plants make respiration. They make food and they
Respiration.
break food during the day, right? They take some carbon dioxide from the air to make food, and they also break this food and release some carbon dioxide. They always say, I don't know you heard it before or not, don't sleep in a room filled up
Mm,
with plants because plants take the oxygen from the air at night. Did you hear this before?
really?
Yes.
No, I heard opposite. It's the oxygen.
They take oxygen at night, and actually they take oxygen also during the day. But look at this. It's like, yeah, Mubin. It produces like 100 unit of oxygen by photosynthesis, and it breathes like us using maybe 10 units of oxygen. So overall, during the day, the plant is producing like 90 milliliter of oxygen. For example, okay?
Yeah, so it's a good thing.
Yes, the plants majorly, they produce much oxygen for us and they
Mm,
consume a little for it during the day. Okay? But during the
okay.
night, there is no light, so no oxygen is produced. The plants make cellular respiration alone. Hang on a second. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Here we go. So, do you get it? The plants during the night carry out respiration only. Respiration only. Okay? But it is not this scary, you know. The plants
Mm,
during the night, so if I'm sitting now in a room and there are many plants in this room, they are not taking or taking all the oxygen. It's like sitting with some kind of people in the room here, okay? They will not take all the
mm,
oxygen in the room. They are just using or consuming small amount of the oxygen in the air, okay?
okay.
Now, let's go back. So, just to be sure, you got this. During the day, plants make photosynthesis and respiration. And during the night, because there is no light, the plants carry out only respiration.
Mm,
What is
delicious.
respiration? The plant will break some of the food it got during the day to get the energy to survive
Okay.
during night. Also,
Mm,
us and the fungi, protists like the amoeba and things like this, all the organisms must consume food to get the ATP they need for their activities. Okay?
okay.
Now, what is this? This is the mitochondria, right?
Yeah.
It is made up of outer membrane and inner folded membrane. Anything that is folded, it is folded to increase the surface area. Like if this is 5 centimeters and you have a folded membrane in the
Mhm.
same area, it will be more or less than 5 centimeters.
So it's gonna be more 10 centimeters.
Got it? So
Yeah.
the inner folded membrane, because it's very important, it is folded uh, to get
Space.
larger size for our process. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's see what is the structure of mitochondria. The mitochondria is made up of, look, this is the inner membrane. It is important for our process today. And within the mitochondria, it is filled in the middle with like a ground material or a solution that we call the matrix, that we call matrix. Okay?
Is that matrix?
Yeah. Okay. Now,
Can you repeat
look,
matrix?
its name is Matrix. You know the movie of Keanu Reeves, Matrix?
Oh, yeah.
The same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, the matrix, it's like the ground material of the mitochondria. Look, we said here the chloroplast also is made up of grana and stroma. The light-dependent
Mm-hmm.
reactions happened in the grana, and the light-independent reactions happened in the stroma. Okay?
Strong. Okay.
Now, let's speak about the process of today. The cellular respiration will take place or happens in 3 steps. One, two, three. Let me give you an overview of the process first. You have glucose, right? Carbon,
Yeah.
carbon with carbon with carbon with carbon with carbon. Six carbons bonded with hydrogen and oxygen and so on, but we don't care about this. We need the bonds between the carbons. They store the energy that we need, okay?
Okay.
Now, the first thing, we will split the glucose into two. We will break these bonds, and we agreed. When you break a bond, you release energy, right?
Yes.
In the form of AT
VATP.
and NAD. Remember, in the photosynthesis, it's NADPH, right? You
Yes.
forgot it
Yeah.
already. I need you to study, you don't have time. Okay?
Okay.
So we used it to get the energy carried by electrons here, energized electrons carried by the NADPH.
Okay. Not pH.
Remember?
Yes.
Let's have
Yes.
a
I
look.
remember. I remember the how it
Yes.
calls.
So hang on a second. We energized the electrons, and here we go. See? So in the photosynthesis, NADPH used to carry energized electrons.
Mm.
And here in the cellular respiration, not to get it mixed up, look, photosynthesis. The NADPH in the photosynthesis, okay?
Okay.
But the energy carrier in the respiration, its name is NADH. It will carry energized electrons, okay?
Okay. So it's different.
Yeah, it's like uh, the famous carrier, the famous car in Germany, Mercedes, and maybe in Korea, maybe Hyundai, right?
Yeah.
So in the chloroplast, the electron carrier is the NADPH, and in the mitochondria, the electron carrier is the NADH, okay?
Okay.
So what do we get when we split the glucose? We split it into half. It is 6 carbons. So the remaining, we still have 3 carbons, right?
Three.
And the other
Yes.
3 carbons, right?
Yeah.
They still store energy in these bonds, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what will we do? We will break them and get the energy we need. Remember, when we break bonds, we get ATP and we get
DH.
NAD
DH.
H. Got it?
Yeah.
Carrying energized electrons. So what about these remaining carbons? How did we make the glucose originally in the plant? We used the carbon dioxide to make the glucose, right?
And yes.
So when we break down the glucose totally, it will become
Carbon dioxide.
carbon dioxide again. Okay?
Mm,
So this
okay.
is step number 1. We split the glucose. The process is named glycolysis.
Glycolysis.
So glycolysis is splitting the glucose into 2 halves. Okay? Each half,
Okay.
each half, carbon, 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 a 3 carbon molecule is named pyruvate. So the result of glycolysis, we split it into 2 pyruvate. Okay?
Pyruvate. Okay.
Then the second step, we break down the pyruvate into carbon dioxide.
Okay. Right.
The second step is named the Krebs cycle. What is
Crepes.
Krebs cycle? We split the we break down the pyruvate and we get carbon dioxide as a
Carbon
result.
dioxide.
Okay, now we got the energy, we broke down the glucose totally, and we got our energy. Why would we need more steps here? We got the ATP we need, right?
Yeah.
But we still have like diamonds, these diamonds of energy, these energized electrons. I still have energy here that I can extract and use to make ATP. So we need the last step of cellular respiration. It is named electron transport
Transportation.
chain.
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
So the process today is made up of 3 steps. What are they? One of them is named glyco
Gly gly
glycolysis. Lysis means break.
glycolysis.
Okay. The
Okay.
second step in the photosynthesis named the Calvin cycle, and here the second step is named the Krebs cycle. Okay.
Okay.
And the last step here is named electron.
Electron
Let's see.
transformation chain.
Transport, yeah. Electron transport
Yeah.
chain. Got it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Do we have
second
to
that.
memorize?
Yes, for sure. And we will repeat them many times, don't worry. Glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. You have to study more with me, like the previous time. Light dependent reactions, light independent reactions. Okay? It is named the Calvin cycle,
Okay.
where requires and produces, where require and produces. The same thing will happen today. The 3 steps of the cellular respiration, glycolysis. We split the glucose into 2-pyruvate. The Krebs cycle, we will break the pyruvate into carbon dioxide. The result is energy everywhere. And the last step, we will extract the energy from the electrons of the NADH. Got it?
Okay.
Okay. We have three places here. Sorry. We have three steps here, and the mitochondria is made up of only two parts. So this is a problem. Not a problem at all, because the first step, glycolysis, happens in the cytoplasm.
That wasn't.
So in turn here, in the cytoplasm, it is the place of glycolysis. The matrix is the place of Krebs cycle,
Mm,
and the inner membrane is the place of the electron transport chain.
yeah,
Okay,
okay. Okay.
so
And
the
what
three,
step? How does the energy go out of the?
the energy is made as you see. Whenever we break a bond, we're here. Whenever we break a bond, we make ATP, right?
Yeah.
And the last thing, we have electrons. I will show you how will we extract the energy from these electrons and use it to make ATP. Where? Here we go. So let's see the three steps where requires and produces. This is an easy one. Look, I already told
Mhm.
you where does glycolysis take place? I wrote
Cytoplasm.
excellent in the cytoplasm. What do we require? The process is splitting glucose. The process is splitting
Yeah.
glucose. So we require
It
glucose to split it,
glucose.
right?
Yeah.
And we said when we split the glucose, the result is two halves of the pyruvate of the glucose that we name
Pyruvate.
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 So splitting the glucose result in 2-pyruvate, and we release energy as ATP
ATP.
and NAD.
And N
Ex
A D H N
Excellent.
H
Good.
N A D. Okay.
NADH. So NADH. So I just want to add something here. To break down the glucose, we use 2 ATP and we produce 4 ATP. So the net is we gained or lost?
Gained.
Gained only 2 ATP.
Why? But.
It's like I want you to deliver something. I want you to deliver something, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you will get 100 real. So you take a taxi, you pay 50 and you get 100. So you made it because you will get 50 net profit, right?
Yeah.
So we need 2 ATP to break down the glucose. And when we break it down, we get 4 ATP. So the net profit here is 2 ATP. Okay.
Okay. It only happens with ATP.
All what I need is ATP.
Mm.
So you get this, the glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm. We break down the glucose into 2-pyruvate and we get net of 2 ATP and we still have energized electrons here, right?
Mm.
Ah,
Yeah.
Are you with me?
Yes,
How
I'm
do you
with you.
turn that bite of food into a chemical that a
I'll show
cell
you
can
here. Look,
recognize and use as energy? The first step is to
I think
completely oxidize the
here
glucose
we go.
molecule,
We have the glucose inside the cytoplasm here, and we will carry out glycolysis.
releasing high-energy electrons. The overall goal is to make ATP, a storage form of energy for most cells. Cellular respiration is a four-stage process that begins with glycolysis. Glycolysis literally means splitting sugars, and it is the first step of cellular respiration, occurring in the cytoplasm of the cell. Glycolysis consists of two distinct phases, an energy investment phase and an energy harvesting phase. In the energy investment phase, two ATP molecules transfer energy to the glucose molecule, forming a 6-carbon sugar diphosphate molecule. This molecule splits, and the energy harvesting phase begins. During this phase, the two 3-carbon molecules are converted to pyruvate, and ATP is formed. Glycolysis is a 10-step reaction that involves the activity of multiple enzymes and enzyme assistants. In the process, a net of 2 molecules of ATP, 2 molecules of pyruvate, and 2 high-energy electron-carrying molecules of NADH are produced. When oxygen is present, the pyruvate molecule
Ah, are we good?
yeah.
So until this point, we started with the glucose. We broke it down into 2 pyruvate, and we got energy of 2 ATP. And we still have to deal with these energized electrons. We want to get the energy from them to make ATP. Okay?
Okay.
This step is named glycolysis. Okay? And all this happened in the cytoplasm. Now, what will happen? I will take the pyruvate and the NADH and enter the mitochondria. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, in the mitochondria, where requires
Matrix.
and produce, I will take the pyruvate where in the matrix of mitochondria, as you see here, I said the Krebs cycle happens in the,
Matrix.
what will I do? I will break the pyruvate.
Parathyroid.
Pyruvate.
Pyruvates.
Okay. Remember,
Yes.
when I
Into
break the
carbon
pyruvate, I
dioxide.
turn it into
Carbon dioxide.
carbon dioxide. Here we go. And we extracted the energy from it. So the result from pyruvate is carbon dioxide. And
Ox-
whenever we break a bond, we release energy in the form of ATP. We get here
E-
also 2 ATP. And we get NAD.
E- DH.
Also, there is another electron carrier called
Yeah.
FADH2. You don't have to
Oh,
know anything about it except the name. FADH2 is like the NADH. Here we are carrying energized electrons. Okay?
okay.
Do you have anything left from the glucose?
No.
No, it turned into carbon dioxide, right? I'll show you something. Here we go.
and NADH enter the mitochondria, and the next stage of cellular respiration begins. The next stage of cellular respiration involves the movement of pyruvate into the mitochondria, where it undergoes oxidation.
So we are breaking down the pyruvate here in the matrix of mitochondria. Look, we will remove two
Each
carbon.
pyruvate molecule is converted in
See, we removed 1 carbon from this and 1 carbon from that, and we turned them to carbon dioxide. Okay?
Oxide.
We will continue breaking down the glucose. You don't need to know all this. But the result is we broke down the pyruvate totally, and we got 6 carbon dioxides
Carbon
here, right?
dioxide. Yeah.
We got our energized electrons carried by the NADH and the FADH2, okay? And we got to ATP. Until now, you see, we broke down the glucose and we get our energy as ATP. That's enough. Khalas, we stopped. No, all what we got is 2 ATP here and 2 ATP in the glycolysis. But do you know that glucose actually still can give us 32 more ATP?
Really? Because you
Yes.
multiply by 4, 6
So
by
I
4.
will work on what? The diamonds here. The
What do you
energized.
mean? Electrons?
Yes. So we need to take these electrons to the next step, which is called the electron transport chain. Things are getting clear now?
No, it gets more confusing.
Why?
It's more confusing, wallah.
Here
More
we go.
things. Yeah.
Look, look. Here we go. The first step. We broke bonds, we make ATP, and we produce the energized electrons, okay?
Mm.
We still have 2 pyruvate to go. So we take them to the next step. Krebs cycle. We break the pyruvate. We turn it into
And
carbon
produce
dioxide.
carbon dioxide.
We get 2 ATP and
ATP.
more NAD
Mm-hmm.
H with energized electrons, okay?
Okay.
So what do we have finally to do? We need to get the energy from this. Look, the word energized electrons. So we need to get their energy and make more ATP. Clear?
How do you make more ATP out of electrons?
Let's see. So we have to go to
DH2 molecules to the next stage, the electron transport chain.
So we will go out of the matrix and go into the inner membrane here. Do you see?
Yeah.
Have you seen something like this before? Because you skipped the previous session. Look, have you seen something like this before?
In
Actually,
order
when
for
I
plants
want
to
to
grow,
refer,
molecule, which will
look
then
at
contain
this.
the light-dependent reactions occur in the thylakoid. It is here that conversion of light energy to chemical energy is initiated.
So, have you seen something like this before? The light-dependent reactions, remember?
Yes.
In the
In
photosynthesis in the
cycle.
previous session.
Yes.
So, we took the energy of the sun and
energy excites electrons to a higher state. Photosystems will channel the excitation energy gathered by the pigment molecules to a reaction center chlorophyll molecule, which will then pass the electrons to a series of
remember this, the energy of the light was used to make energized electrons, right?
So they are transferred with 2 electrons.
Yes, look.
Within photosystem 1, low-energy electrons are re-energized and are passed through an electron transport chain where they are used to reduce the electron carrier NADP+ to NAD.
See? So these are electrons that carry the energy of the sun, right?
Yeah.
Now, we have extracted these electrons
How do
today.
you turn that bite of
We have
food into a chemical?
extracted the energy. See? So we still have energy in these electrons, right?
Yes.
We will take them to the electron transport chain. See? Here we go. And I'll give you a break to think about it.
Transport chain.
We are leaving the matrix and we are entering the inner membrane. Okay? Just 3 minutes, okay? I'll have to do something.
Okay.
So again, I'm sorry. You are storing your energy as a pressure in a filled up balloon. So when you leave the balloon, you know the turbines, when they spin, they generate electricity, right?
Yes, they do.
like windmills. So when you leave it, the air will move out again, moving the turbine and generating electricity. Okay?
Okay.
Now, how do we use this in the cellular respiration process? We have, hang on a second, we have the inner membrane has proteins that will use the,
How do you is produced by aerobic?
hang on a second, here we go, look.
The electron transport chain is a series of membrane-bound carriers in the mitochondria that pass electrons from one to another. As the electrons are transferred between the membrane proteins, the cell is able to capture energy and use it to produce ATP molecules. Proteins in the chain pump hydrogen ions across a membrane. When the hydrogen ions flow back across,
It's like we are use the energy of the electrons to blow a balloon. We are filling this space with hydrogen ions. So we are pumping hydrogen ions. We are making a great concentration of hydrogen ions, like we are filling this place with air. Okay?
So we are filling inner membrane with hydrogen ions.
Yes, this is space in the inner membrane is filled up with hydrogen ions. Everything in life, when you leave it, it will move again from the high concentration to the low.
Concentration.
But in the way I will put my turbine, dun, 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 that will use the movement of hydrogen ions to make 80.
the membrane through an ATP synthase complex, ATP is synthesized by the enzyme ATP synthase. Oxygen acts.
Clear?
Yes.
So in the inner membrane, again, the last step, in the inner membrane, we use the energy of the electrons carried by NADH and the fat H2 to make the largest amount of ATP. Look, 32 ATP molecule is made during the electron transport chain. Okay,
Okay.
we are almost done. Look at this. What is this word? Aerobic cellular respiration. What is the meaning of aerobic?
Aerobic means carried, breaking down.
No. Aerobic means requires oxygen.
But we
So
didn't
when
need
we say
oxygen.
aerobic bacteria, this kind of bacteria, they live in places with oxygen. Anaerobic bacteria, they don't need oxygen to survive. Like those living in our digestive system, they don't get oxygen through our digestive system. They are anaerobic. But for us, can we live without oxygen?
No, we don't.
Why? That's
Because
why we are speaking about it today. Because to extract the energy from food to carry out cellular respiration, the process need oxygen. But have you seen oxygen anywhere here? We finished the process and you didn't see any oxygen, right?
carbon dioxide.
Yes, but we didn't see any oxygen. Did we use oxygen anywhere?
No, we
We
don't.
will use it.
Did it?
We will use
Now?
it. Nothing of this will happen except if you have oxygen for the last step. Okay? You used electrons and you extracted the energy from them, right?
Yes.
So what will we do with these electrons now? We threw them?
No, we need oxygen to carry them out.
Excellent.
Oh.
So here comes the rule of oxygen. If you don't have a garbage collector, don't come and work for me. This is it. If you don't have oxygen to get your electrons after you're finished, خلاص, I'm not breaking down the glucose for you. So your cells are asking, hey, I'm breaking down the glucose for you. Do you have oxygen to get rid of the electrons at the end? Okay, yes, I do. Okay, I'll make you survive. I will get you cellular respiration for your cells. For your heart to work, it needs ATP. For your brain to work, it needs ATP. to get this ATP, you need cellular respiration.
Ration.
Without oxygen, no aerobic cellular respiration. So when someone is choking us now, we can't get oxygen. So what is the problem? We will die. Why? Oxygen is vital for our survival. Why? We didn't know until now. The oxygen is a major component of the process of aerobic cellular respiration because it is a garbage collector. It will collect the electrons for us. Look.
As the terminal electron acceptor. By accepting electrons, oxygen is reduced to form water, a byproduct.
Look, when we finished using the electrons, remember in the photosynthesis, I keep saying remembering, but you didn't study it. Okay, so I
No,
will
I
have to
remember.
remind you. I told you 1 week ago. Did you solve the homework? No, I forgot. Okay, that's what's happening when you forget solving the homework. Look, I told you especially I love those electrons when I said وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Allah gave us water and we
Mm-hmm.
used the water originally. Here we go. We used the water during photosynthesis.
In order for plants to
Lost
grow,
me.
photosynthesis can occur in the stroma.
Look,
While
when
are
we
replaced by a process called photolysis, which involves the oxidation of a water molecule producing free.
how did we get the electrons in the beginning? The plant broke down water to get those electrons, and the water gave us oxygen and the hydrogen ions, right? Right?
Yes.
So now we will make
Yeah.
the opposite. We breathe oxygen, we put the electrons and the hydrogen ion with this oxygen, and we breathe water vapor.
Carbon dioxide.
No.
Oh, water
Carbon
vapors?
dioxide, we already made it by breaking down the glucose. But the oxygen, from where did you get the oxygen originally? Did we get the oxygen from the carbon dioxide or from the water?
Water.
So we broke the water and we got electrons, oxygen, and the hydrogen ions. And now we are using.
How do you turn that bite of food ATP-bound carrier? The
We are
cell
using
pump
this
hydrogen
oxygen.
ions across a membrane
Look.
through an ATP synthase complex. ATP is synthesized by the enzyme ATP synthase.
Look.
Oxygen acts as the terminal electron acceptor. By accepting electrons,
So we are reforming the water.
oxygen is reduced to form water, a byproduct of the electron transport chain.
You get it?
Yes.
You got lost, I'm sorry. We explained everything in details, but actually, look, I will summarize it now in 2 minutes and you will summarize it with me. So it is very clear for you and not confusing at all. Okay? So the oxygen here,
Okay.
final acceptor of hydrogen and electrons, right?
Final acceptors of hydrogen and electrons.
Okay. Most ATP is made during which step of the 3 steps?
Second step? No,
How
first
many?
step.
Third, electron transport chain, right?
Oh, okay.
We made 32 ATP. Okay?
Okay.
Carbon dioxide is made during when we broke
Second
down the
step.
pyruvate, we released the carbon dioxide during the Krebs cycle, right? Okay, 2 important notes. Now look at this with me. We will revise everything in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Here we go. The first step is
Glycogen. Glycolysis.
glycolysis. Okay? It will be written, so you will choose it. Okay? It happens
Okay.
in
It happens in a
ah,
cytoplasm. You didn't
yes.
hear?
No, I didn't hear it in the first time. Happens in the
Oh,
cytoplasm. Okay? What do
okay.
we break? We need
And carbo
glue.
glucose
It is named the
and
glycolysis, so we split the glucose, right?
glucose. Yes.
When we split the glucose we split it into two halves called the
Pyrotes. Two
pyru,
pyruvates.
pyruvate. Remember?
Yes, but it's so hard
Okay.
to name.
So we use two ATP and we produce,
Mhm. And NADH with two electrons.
yes, we produce NAD, H, and four ATP. So the net ATP is,
ATP is four. Oh no, two.
yes, we produce the four and we use two. So the net is 2 ATP.
What does net means? What do you mean by net?
I can't say it in English.
Gain?
They say gross and net in the business. When I sell my stuff, whatever it is, I sold it for 100, but I already paid 50 to get them. So my profit, I sold it for 100. Oh my God, your profit is 100? No, my net profit, Safi, my pure profit without my expenses is only 50, right?
So it's
So
only gain two.
yeah, so they told you, you made 4 ATP. Actually, no. My pure profit is only 2
Two.
ATP after cutting my expenses, right?
Yes.
So we will take the 2 pyruvate to the next step called the Krebs
Krebs vacuum? Cycle.
cycle. That
Cycle.
happens,
Breakdown.
Keanu Reeves,
We're
happens in
in
the
matrix.
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 Okay? So we will break what? Pyro.
Pyrothor.
Here is that, not parathyroid.
No,
Pyruvate.
no, pyruvate. Pyruvate. We break down the
Pyruvate.
pyruvate into
When
carbon
we break it,
dioxide.
we release carbon
Dioxide.
Excellent. Produce CO2. And whenever we break bonds, we make
ATP.
NAT.
NADH. And there was something as FA.
Yes,
Two
FADH2. Okay.
electron. Where is the two electrons of NADH?
What was?
Two electrons of NADH in the last step.
Forget about them. I actually write the electrons to remember them. Okay. They are not
Okay.
actually glowing like this. It's a chemical compound. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the third step, it is named electron. Remember, we will use the electrons. So electron
Transfer chain.
chain. It happens in the inner,
Inner inner membrane.
the folded inner membrane. Remember it? I will use the electrons from,
NADH and FAADH.
who will pick the electrons at the end?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. So finally, at the end, we are using these electrons to make ATP. and the oxygen will make water as waste product. Okay?
Where do you get the H, 2H from the FADH?
Yes, if ADH will give the oxygen, NADH will give the oxygen. So I said here the oxygen is the final acceptor of the hydrogen and the electrons, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as you see here, we broke down the glucose totally and we get the energy we need, right? As ATP, right?
Yes.
And when we broke down the the glucose in the Krebs cycle, we produced the carbon dioxide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here. And also we used the oxygen and we produced water in the last process, right?
Yes, we did.
So we did it. We used the we used the glucose, we used the oxygen, and we produced carbon dioxide, water, and the ATP. How many ATP? 36. Two in the glycolysis, two in the Krebs cycle, and 32 in the electron transport chain. That's why I told you most ATP is produced during,
Electron transportation chain.
okay?
Okay, so Mr. Every ATP is same in every cell or numbers can change?
No, the number is the same in any kind of cell that has mitochondria.
Okay.
Last thing today. What if you don't have oxygen in one of your cells? Will you die?
No.
The cell will have to deal with it maybe for a few seconds, maybe for a whole minute, maybe. I will try to give you the ATP you need in the absence of oxygen. This process, and there is no explanation for this, it is just information that I will give you. It is called
Mm-hmm.
anaerobic.
Include
Remember,
less.
aerobic respiration means a process of releasing ATP by using the oxygen in the process, right?
Yes.
Anaerobic respiration,
Uh,
sometimes they call it fermentation. It is making ATP in the absence of oxygen.
so that's how other living things that are anaerobic.
Actually, you do this.
Really?
Yes.
But there's some bacteria in our stomach that
No, no,
they
no. You
exist
do
anaerobic.
this, Nina. You do this. Do you
Okay.
go to the hypermarket with your parents?
Yes.
Do you carry the bags when you go home? Help her,
Yes.
a good girl.
Yeah.
So if you are walking a little bit long distance, do you feel like a burning feeling in your arm?
Yes.
A little bit, right? So what it
Not
did,
really.
this is what we are speaking about. Try to hold something with your hand like this. With time, few minutes later, you will feel like, oh my God, I can feel my hand, it's burning. Carry something and you will
Mm,
feel heat in your hand, right?
yes.
If you are, that's why when it's easier with the guys. They go to the gym and when they carry heavy lifts, one, two,
Mm-hmm.
three, four, until the 12th one, we carry this like this and we are dying. Why? What is the problem? I feel extreme pain in my arm. Actually, it's not
Mm-hmm.
pain, it's like heat in my arm, right? If you have exercised any kind of exercise, the muscle you are exercising, it's feeling heat out of it. Why? Look at this. When I am exercising, My
Mm-hmm.
muscles are carrying out aerobic respiration, right?
Yes.
So my muscles right now consumed the oxygen. Who will deliver the oxygen to the muscles? The blood, right? So
Mm-hmm.
look at the pathway. The blood will move from my arm, carrying the carbon dioxide to my lung. To my heart first. Then the heart will send the carbon dioxide with the blood to the lungs. We will eliminate the carbon dioxide and we get oxygen into the blood. Then the blood will go back to the heart. Then the heart will pump the oxygen blood back to our arm. Did we stop
Mm-hmm.
working all this time? No, we are still working. Okay, the oxygen is on the way, and now my hand need ATP, and there is no enough oxygen. This is what's right now. Sometimes you are so that's why we breathe so fast. We try to supply the muscles with oxygen
Because there
quickly.
is no oxygen left? Not
What?
enough oxygen. Because there's not enough oxygen? Because
Yes,
of...
we are trying to supply the oxygen quickly because there is no enough oxygen. So what happens in the few seconds when the oxygen is on the way and we are missing oxygen here in animal muscles? And as you said in the beginning, many types of bacteria also.
Mm-hmm.
Bacteria. What happens? We carry a process called lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid
Fermentation.
fermentation. Why did they call it like this? Because you have glucose and you split it into pyruvate, right?
Pyruvate. Pyruvate.
Yes, or pyruvic acid. This is supplying you with 2 ATP. Okay, you don't have oxygen. This pyruvate is not entering the mitochondria. So
Mm.
what will we do? The cell will turn the pyruvate. It's like also like a warning for your body. Hey, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have enough oxygen. The only pathway to deal with this pyruvate is by producing lactic acid.
Acid.
Yes. It is used or in you, it makes burning feeling in muscle.
Sensation.
Okay. In bacteria, you know how do we make yogurt and cheese?
Yes.
We put bacteria in the milk and the milk start turning into yogurt. Okay.
Mm.
Why? Because bacteria is using now lactic acid fermentation. The acid in the milk, it turns it into cheese and yogurt. Clear?
Okay.
So what happens to the pyruvate in absence of oxygen? It is turned into
Lactic acid. Like
lactic acid. Okay.
acid.
We also, the human never leaves any simple, poor organism to live in peace. Once in the past, we discovered a kind of fungi that lives in absence of oxygen. This poor fungi, we used it. We figured out some way to use it and humiliate it. We used it in our baking industry. We called it,
Yeast.
you know, the
What?
yeast we put on the flour when we are baking.
No, I
Ah,
don't.
you are new. You were born in the 2000s. Now we use bicarbonate. You know the bicarbonate makes bubbles.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Baking powder?
Baking powder. Yes. In the past, we didn't use baking powder. We put baking powder because it produces bubbles, right? In the past, they used,
Yeah.
and now maybe, by the way, the original bakeries, they use yeast because it gives a little bit flavor. The yeast
Mm.
carries out
Is
alcoholic
it like
fermentation
Mm. But people used to eat it, even it has alcohol?
because this is not the alcohol that makes people drunk. It is called ethyl alcohol. It's a very lightweight alcohol that evaporates immediately. And anyway, we will put the bread in the oven and it will evaporate it all. So, but some bad people are using this alcohol in the wine industry.
Mm-hmm.
They put the yeast on the grape and they leave it for.
Mm.
This wine is from the 1825. It worth $1,000. Why? It has been carrying out alcoholic fermentation for a whole decade, maybe, or 10 decades or something. A century, 100 years of producing alcohol in this wine. The yeast is, look, using the sugar in the grape, using the glucose to survive, the yeast is
Okay.
using the glucose to make 280p and it is producing
Yes.
pyruvate. Okay?
Pyruvate.
So the yeast will use those
So
280p to survive.
pyruvate.
Where will the pyruvate go? The pyruvate will be broken down into ethyl alcohol. Those bad people are using it, and us, the good people, we are using the other good component. Carbon dioxide will raise the bread dough. Carbon dioxide evaporating, raising the bread dough.
Um, no, I used it before. I know what it means. I googled it.
Okay, so that's it. The anaerobic respiration or fermentation, it happens in two ways according to the living thing we are speaking about. If we are speaking about
Mm-hmm.
the animal muscles will break the pyruvate into lactic acid in absence of oxygen. If we are speaking about the yeast, it will break the pyruvate into ethyl alcohol and the carbon dioxide. Okay?
So instead of the electron transportation chain,
No Krebs cycle, no electron transport chain. You will not enter my mitochondria except if you are taking your garbage collector with you. You have oxygen? Okay, you are allowed to enter the mitochondria. No oxygen, no Krebs cycle, no electron transport chain.
but pyruvate happens in matrix. No, wait. No.
Matrix inside mitochondria. No one is entering my mitochondria.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, خلاص. I
The,
understood.
the woman said it in the video. She said, when oxygen is present, here we go. I like this word. Look, here we go. We are in the glycolysis now. We split the glucose into pyruvate and made ATP and NADH, right?
Yes.
Look, when oxygen is present, the pyruvate and the NADH enter the mitochondria.
The pyruvate molecules and
Mm.
NADH, the pyruvate molecule, and two high-energy electron-carrying molecules
You will
of
see.
NADH are produced. When oxygen is present, the pyruvate molecules and NADH enter the mitochondria. And the next stage of cellular respiration begins.
So when oxygen is not present, we are taking one of those two pathways according to the living thing we are speaking about. Clear?
Yes, it's clear.
What will you do now?
I will do
And
homework. Yes.
yes, revise first.